That door is like the jam, dude.
Totally, right?
So good.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, the door is...
When the pink goes in, it's gonna be really nice.
You should have almost brought those black tiles in there. The idea was to tile the facade of a building. So we had to find a building to tile. This one just seemed to suit the project the best because of its size and its location.
The influence for the wall and other influences we're seeing almost the way graffiti builds up and the way that it gets buffed in these sort of geometric color field abstract like paintings. And we're sort of bringing together all those elements from within our practice to things that we see and are inspired by from advertising, signage, color, street, New York. We started Faile in 1999, and it really started as a collaboration of printmaking in silk large format monoprint silk screens. And it just kind of evolved from there. It's something we'd talked about for a long time. I think even in high school and before, we'd always talked about this idea of collaboration and working like a band almost.
When I first moved to New York, it was like England times 10. It was just like saturated with like graffiti and street art and all these kinds of crazy things. And I just started documenting it in the beginning and taking photos of it and talking to Pat about it, and was really inspired by the art form. I was like, you gotta come down here and like check out what's going on here on the street. It's really interesting.
I think we've always been attracted to sort of one collaging, appropriation, found work, and ephemera from the last 100 years. Seeing those things that are lost in some random advert page from a magazine 50 years ago, and sort of tying a little piece of that back into something that's happening today, and then multiplying that by 20.
You know, a lot of our prints will print, and then there's a lot of hand painting, and there's a lot of multiple printing that takes place in it. And then from there, it's like, you get your final print, what you do on top, and just kind of finding things that you can't get from a silk screen, like the brush stroke. Getting those gestures happening in it. So there's a lot of like handcrafting, overprinting and things that happens in our printing process. The more layering and the more beat up it gets, it seems the better the print kind of becomes. You can get prints to a certain place where it's just like you work it and you fight it and it just looks like crap, and you do that one more layer and it changes everything, and you're like, wow, this one's my favorite one, this one's dope.
Over the years, it's evolved, not only the processes, but also the materials that we're using. Working on the street, you sort of come across a lot of wood and found bits and bobs, and it just sort of, I don't know, sort of naturally incorporates itself into the work. The abstraction that's played out, and sort of starting with doing some of the rips and abstracting in that way and layering up, really started to lend itself to the blocks and the wood, and sort of this idea of building up these layers and being able to sort of move bits and pieces around, and you have this one little block in there that you can focus in on and see, and it's got its own little meaning to it, but then you back up and see the whole piece.
With the canvas, when you paint a canvas, you're kind of stuck with where you're at on the piece. It's a much more committed process. With the blocks, there's that flexibility to like, put it together, deconstruct it, put it back together like Lego.
In the prayer wheel, this is really the simple idea. Native Americans came back and retook the city that was once theirs. From there, it just really made us look at things like what do we pray for, and kind of creating a tactile experience from the work and letting that come alive a bit more.
This is the one of the machines that was left from Deluxe Flux, New York.
We had a show coming up, and we had asked our good friend Bass to be involved in it, and we all sat down in his studio and just sort of started battering around ideas. We got on arcades, and we just started thinking about like, wow, that would be really amazing to take sort of this concept and see what would happen if fail and best, you know, tackled it.
It was probably the funnest show that I loved hanging out in there. Normally it's like you finish a show and you're done and you leave. And there was a retrospective going on that night, and we went to the retrospective and everybody's sipping wine and we're like, let's get the hell out of here and head back to the arcade.
There's very few times you do a show where people walk in and almost every single person, you know, leaves with a huge smile on their face, and they're gonna bring a friend back. I was thinking this we could snip off, this little ducktail, but.
Sure, whatever, I don't think it matters.
We both have different strengths, we both have different interests, even within the work, which is probably actually one of the most successful things about it is, you know, sort of the things that I'm focused on or thinking about, you know, and the things that Pat's focused on and thinking about aren't always the same, and we can sort of bounce that off each other, and then all of a sudden you get excited, you know, it's like, oh, I never even thought of that, and then all of a sudden, you know, it just kind of keeps reeling off each other, and two minds are better than one, I guess.
Here, go over there. So 1986, 1986. The temple was it was sort of shocking in the sense that, you know, we were the architects and the engineers and the artists and the designers for a lot of things that, you know, we never normally do, and it was sort of all in for 2 years.
A lot of it was a dialogue that we had with one of our colleagues in Portugal, and getting back to this idea of like lost crafts. And when we saw the tiles, and there's like 1,000 of these hand-painted tiles, and you know every single one of them's been hand-painted, and there's just a beauty, and each one's different, and yeah, I think we got kind of wowed by tiles in Portugal.
It's also sort of about how do you evolve street art a little bit? How do you give people this sort of unexpected experience where they stumble upon something and all of a sudden everything's just turned enough to really make you stop and take a longer look. All these just little nods that, I mean, when you sort of look at the world like a child again, or like, you know, it sort of takes you to this other place.
I kind of wanted to learn this so that I could do my bathroom. I got a house with a tiny little bathroom in it that I want to do, and I didn't know how to tile or cut tiles, so now I know.
I mean, the temple was really its own concrete idea, but the idea was to keep using elements from the temple in different ways, the tiles being a big part of that. Doing it first in Brooklyn, in our backyard, is a good spot. I think there's somewhere around 9,000, 8,000 tiles.
And then there's two type treatments. You got vanity and perfect.
The other hand-painted tiles are just sort of inspired by Native American designs and things we see on the street, other things from our work. Some are just more traditional designs, you know.
The Faile 1986 tile really comes from the Space Shuttle Challenger. We've used 1986 and Challenger in our work for a long time now. The Challenger sort of made this end of innocence impact on us as kids. So 1986 has really lived in our work ever since then. It's something that you grow from, you know, move beyond your failures to succeed and grow.
Yeah, everything's kind of a lineage of process. I don't think we would have been at the tiles had we not done like the puzzle boxes. Everything kind of connects and flows to one another.
It just all clicked. I mean, everything just sort of like came together, and I think it opened up a lot of new possibilities.